What's up? Welcome back to another edition of DBSN Overtime. I'm JD Lowe.
And I'm Eli Baxter. Yeah, we got a big one today. We're going to start out with the NFL like usual, transition into college football, and get into our other sports like NHL, MLS, and NBA.
Yep, it was another busy week this past week. We got some new stuff on the horizon too. We got a new playoff or a new tournament coming up, and some new additions of our two segments. So it should be a fun one.
Yep. And we're going to start out with the NFL Week 10. We're going to start out with a very high-scoring matchup in Baltimore between the divisional rivals, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, that was a huge one. Lots of scoring, lots of big games from some big players. The two QBs obviously is a little bit of a QB battle to start. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow both had good games. The Ravens would end up on top, but still a good game from Bengals QB Joe Burrow, and star of the show, Jamar Chase. He would run for 264 yards rather. So a big game from him.
Yep, he had 3 touchdowns as well, and he was nice for the fantasy managers that had him on the team. He scored 55.4 fantasy points if it was like an average fantasy league. And then on the other side, Lamar Jackson as well. He had 290 yards in the air, plus 4 touchdowns, and it was a high-scoring matchup, especially in the fourth quarter when 34 points were scored.
Yep, the Ravens just continue to chug along after a rough start to the year. They've just been great recently.
Yep, and then we're going to head to Arrowhead Stadium, where the Kansas City Chiefs pulled out a thriller against the Denver Broncos. They won it on a blocked field goal, so let's take a look at that.
Field goal Lutz. Fraboni the snap, Riley the hold, Lutz the kick to win it. Oh! Blocked! The Chiefs have won!
Yeah, that was a crazy one. Broncos almost becoming the first team to knock off the Chiefs this year, but somehow the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, they stay alive. Bo Nix, the rookie QB for the Broncos, did have a good game as well. 215 yards plus 2 touchdowns in the air.
Yeah, the Chiefs just look kind of unstoppable right now. No fault to the Broncos or Bo Nix, just a really good Chiefs team right now.
Yep, they look like they're gonna go far. Yeah. So, and then another thriller in Maryland, in Landover, Maryland, at Northwest Stadium. The Washington Commanders fell to the away Pittsburgh Steelers 28-27.
Yep. Russell Wilson, veteran QB there. He'd throw for 3 touchdowns. He'd have a pretty good game. Almost hit 200 yards. Threw for 195. And on the other side, the Commanders, they had a good game as well. The Austin Eckler for the Commanders, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. So it was a tight one and a good game overall.
Yep, the Steelers would win that game in the 4th as they did not let the Commanders into the end zone or get a field goal. So good game there for the Steelers. Good win away, especially against rookie QB Jaden Daniels. And then another big game at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. The Detroit Lions defeated the Houston Texans 26-23.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. If you look at the box score for that game, you might think it would come out on the other side as the Lions QB Jared Goff, he threw for 5 interceptions. It was crazy. Almost the NFL record almost getting set again for the most total interceptions in a game there. Ended up not, but still a crazy game, but the Lions ended up pulling out in the end. So.
Yep. The Lions were down heavy at the first half, and the Lions did not let the Texans score at all in the second half. So 19-0 in the second half definitely helped them get to the win.
Yep, great defense there.
Yep. And then we're going to go to the rest of the week's scores as the Panthers got their 3rd win. They beat the New York Giants in Munich, Germany during the NFL's Munich games. And then the Bills, they moved to 8-2 after their 30-20 win over the Colts. And the 49ers also won off of a late field goal. They beat the Buccaneers.
Yep, lots of tight games here. It's definitely a fun week for NFL fans.
Yep. And then, obviously, I feel like we're repeating ourselves a lot here, but Chiefs are the only remaining unbeaten team left in the NFL.
And we transition to the next upcoming week of NFL football. We got the Commanders taking on the Eagles for Thursday night football tonight. The Ravens and the Steelers will play each other. The Chiefs and the Bills in a pretty big game will face each other as well as the Falcons and the Broncos.
Yep. And then the rest of the week, we got all the other teams, but the teams on bye this week are the Giants, the Arizona Cardinals, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Carolina Panthers.
And as we turn from NFL news, we look at college football. It was another big week in college football. Top dog Georgia would take on Ole Miss, and that was a crazy one.
Yep, 28-26 or 28-10. Ole Miss came out on top.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is making a late push for the CFB playoffs here. Big game from Jackson Dart, their QB. He had 199 yards and 1 touchdown. That moved Georgia out of the top spot in the SEC standings, as they're now 3rd. Ole Miss moves up. They're also 8-2. So both teams can't lose another one, or they might be out of the CFB playoff.
Yeah, interesting to see Georgia here, who they're been at the top for a long time, and interesting to see how they've kind of fallen down a little bit now from the start of the year.
Yep, conference realignment has really affected the SEC.
Yeah.
No undefeated teams, no teams that are 2 losses or 1 loss. So
yeah, definitely made it more competitive.
Yep. And then another top team going down was the number 4 Miami Hurricanes. They lost away for the 2nd year in a row to Georgia Tech. Last year it was off of that late coach mishap when Georgia Tech recovered a fumble, which should have just been an easy kneel down. This year, Georgia Tech just got the best of them, 28-23.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, an unranked team, coming in and beating Miami, but Miami's QB Cam Ward still had a really good game, throwing for 3 touchdowns and 348 yards. He had been in the Heisman favorite for some time, so I mean, still just a Heisman-worthy performance out of him, but ended up falling short.
Yeah, and surprisingly, Georgia Tech had 271 yards in the air and did not surpass 100 yards in the air. Sorry, had 271 yards on the ground, 99 yards in the air. Georgia Tech spoiling some teams this year, beating Florida State in the beginning of the season in Ireland. Florida State not doing well now, but in the beginning it looked like a big win there for them.
Yeah, interesting to see. And number 11, Alabama, took on LSU, and they won big, 42-13.
Yep, they stomped them in Baton Rouge. It was 42-13. Alabama led at the half 21-3, or 21-6. So they got out pretty fast and did not look back.
Yeah, it was a big game. Jalen Milroe from Alabama had 4 rushing touchdowns. So he's been big for them all year, and another big game this week.
Yep. And then another upset, Iowa State. They've lost for the 2nd week in a row. They lost to Kansas 45-36. Kansas was looking like a team to be in the race at the beginning of the season. Not anymore. They're 3-6, but a good win for them there. They were up 31-13 at the half. So big first half push probably got them to the win.
Yeah. Iowa State's going to have to pull through here at the very end of the season if they want to have a chance here for the playoffs.
Yeah, the BYU's in the lead in the Big 12. They almost lost to Utah. Late call, but gonna be a tight race in the Big 12.
Yep, and with all those games, all the movement around, changes in the college football playoff rankings, Oregon is sitting at number 1 still, Ohio State at number 2, followed by Texas at number 3, Penn State at number 4, and Indiana has moved up to number 5.
Yeah, it's 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5.
Yeah,
that's the first time the Big Ten has ever had 4 top teams in the top 5. Last time I believe was the SEC in 2014, and the only other conference to do that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then in the playoff picture, the 4 teams that are looking like they're getting a bye is number 1 Oregon from the Big Ten, number 9 Miami from the ACC, 3 Texas from the SEC, and BYU from the Big 12.
Yep. And the group of 5 school is currently to make it in, Boise State, who's number 13.
Yep. They moved down 1 spot after last week, after Georgia lost and Indiana moved up.
Yeah.
A lot of movement last week.
Yeah, and the Heisman rankings, also a little bit of shuffling around after this past week. Maybe number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft, wide receiver and cornerback Travis Hunter, sitting at number 1 still for the Heisman odds, followed by Dylan Gabriel, the QB out of Oregon, and the Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty is sitting at 3rd after he had 1 game slowed down a little bit, but still overall for a running back still having a great season.
Yeah, we haven't talked about his name here in a few weeks,
Yeah.
so excited to see him back. And then the odds to win the national championship, the Buckeyes, they still sit at number 1, followed by Oregon and Texas.
And we transition to Week 12 preview and our picks of the week. We're going to have number 23 Missouri taking on number 21 South Carolina. So it should be a big one. Both coming in with pretty solid records, 7-2 for Missouri and 6-3 for South Carolina.
I'm going to have to take the Gamecocks in this one. Missouri has looked atrocious in big games. Losing to Texas A&M earlier in the season, only putting up 10 on them, and then getting shut out by the Crimson Tide as well. South Carolina, they stuck with Crimson Tide, lost it in overtime earlier in the season, but they did beat Texas A&M, so I'm gonna take the Gamecocks.
I'm going to have to go on the other side of that one. I'm going to go with Mizzou. Should be a good game either way, but yeah, I think Missouri will come out on top.
Yep. And then Arizona State versus Kansas State. Kansas State fallen last week to Houston. They're hosting the Sun Devils.
Yep, should be a good game either way again. Two pretty close teams, but I'm going to go with Kansas State, the ranked team.
I'm going to have to agree with this one. I think they bounce back in a big way. They need it.
Yeah.
They need it late. And then another huge one in the SEC. Number 7, Tennessee, traveling to Athens, Georgia to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. Who do you have from this one?
I think Georgia's just fallen out of momentum a little bit too much recently. I'm going to have to go with Tennessee.
I'm going to agree with that one. I think Tennessee's got a lot to live for, and I don't think the situation in Georgia right now is helping their cause. And
the other game, number 20 Clemson will be taking on Pittsburgh. Who do you have for that one?
I'm going to have to go with Clemson in this one. Pittsburgh also starting out 7-0 like Iowa State, but losing their last two. I'm going to go with the Tigers in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that one. I think Clemson will come out on top. Games they've lost to a pretty good Georgia, obviously, and then they also lost to a pretty good Louisville team, so I'm going to have to go with Georgia there.
Yep, or Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson there, yep.
Yep. And then we're going to send it to chess boxing with John in our new segment, or our new edition of Worldwide Wacky Sports.
Chess boxing is a sport that combines two very different challenges, chess and boxing. Created in 2003 by a German artist, the game alternates between 6 rounds, 3 of boxing and 3 of chess. Each round of boxing lasts 3 minutes and each chess round lasts 4. The goal, win by either checkmate or knockout.
Thanks, John, for that. We're going to transition into college basketball. A couple big ranked matchups this week. We had number 9 North Carolina heading to take on the Kansas Jayhawks. It was a close one, but Kansas did come out on top, 92-89 at home. They were up big in the first half, 52-38. They were led by their senior center, Hunter Dickinson, who used to play at Michigan. He reached his 50th double-double on the season, or on his collegiate career. So big stats there for him.
And number 11 Alabama would take on Houston. That would be another close game, only decided by 5 points. Auburn taking on Houston. Auburn would end up winning that game 74-69.
Yep. Johnny Broome, their freshman guard, led them in a big way, dropping 20 on the Cougars.
Yeah.
And then a big game there for Baylor. They came back after their opening season loss to Gonzaga. They came back in a big way and beat Arkansas, the 16th ranked team in the country, 72-67.
Yeah, it was a good one. And Duke, the big name, took on Kentucky. It was a close one again. Duke would end up falling 72-19, 72-77. Duke freshman Cooper Flagg, obviously the big name out of Duke. He would have a kind of rough game. Turned the ball over 2 times in the final 2. So Duke ended up falling that one. Not a great performance, but
yep. That was the first time Kentucky had beat Duke and the Blue Devils since 2015. So big win there for them. And then we're going to transition it over to the NHL.
Yeah, so big news out of the NHL. As the NHL, some of the big names are off to a very hot start. Alex Ovechkin came into the season trying to chase down Wayne Gretzky's goal record, all-time goal record Gretzky had for any player in the NHL. Ovechkin off to a really good start. He has 10 goals in his first 18 games on the year, and he's on pace for 59 this season, which would mean he would pass Gretzky if he continues his pace by February of this year. Connor McDavid on the other side of the league, another player off to a really good start. He scored his 999th all-time career point, this past Tuesday, and that puts him just one shy of 1,000, obviously. And once he hits 1,000 points, he'll be the fourth youngest and fourth fastest player ever to hit 1,000 points. So big stuff from the NHL superstars. The Winnipeg Jets also having a really good start to the year. They completed the best start to an NHL season ever, as they're currently sitting at 15-1, and they have an incredible plus 39 goal differential. So yeah, they got Connor Hellebuck in the back there in the net for them. He's coming off of a Vezina winning season, and he looks primed to win another one if they can continue their success this season.
Yep. Thank you, JD. And we're going to send it to our second episode of This Week in Sports with Alex.
This Week in Sports, November 15th. On November 15th, 2011, legendary Duke men's basketball coach Mike Krzyzewski set the all-time NCAA win record. Coach K clinched the record with a 74-69 win over Michigan State in the annual State Farm Champions Classic. The record previously sat at 902, held by legendary coach Bob Knight, who was Krzyzewski's mentor and former head coach. Krzyzewski still holds the NCAA record with 1,202 wins. However, he has been retired since 2022.
Thank you, Alex. Love to hear that name, Coach K, again. Missing the days of watching him coach at Duke. And then we're going to transition into our NBA news. The NBA Cup has started. The NBA's in-season tournament. It's the second season of the NBA Cup. Last year, the Lakers took home the championship. The NBA Cup, for those who don't know, is a group play tournament. Starts out with a couple teams in a group. Then the winner of each group moves on, plus one wild card team, and then so the 8 remaining teams play in a playoff bracket. And it started on Tuesday. The Golden State Warriors, they held the Dallas Mavericks. They beat the Dallas Mavericks after Klay Thompson's return to the Bay. It was 120-117. And then the Atlanta Hawks, they upset the defending champions of the regular NBA. They beat them 117-116 without their star Trae Young. So it was a big loss there for the Celtics. Probably cut down some momentum for them. And then on the other side, the Heat, they lost to the Detroit Pistons in overtime, 123-121. Coach Eric Spoelstra had a little bit of a mishap late in the game as he called a timeout when they did not have any timeouts, leading to a technical foul, and Pistons getting their 2 winning free throws on the game. So it was not helpful for the Heat there. And then the Magic, they beat the Hornets. The Knicks beat the 76ers. The Raptors beat the Bucks, or the Bucks beat the Raptors. And then the Suns, they beat the Jazz, and the Timberwolves, they fell to the Trailblazers.
Yeah, thanks, Eli. And in NBA regular season news, the Cavs currently stay undefeated and they lead the East. They're 13-0 on the year, coming off a win last night against the 76ers, 114-106.
Yep, and that is the 5th best start an NBA team has ever had. They follow the 2015-2016 Golden State Warriors, who started out 24-0, the Houston Rockets in 1993-1994 season when they started out 15-0. Then they closely follow the Dallas Mavericks from 2002 and the Boston Celtics from 1957, as both of those teams started out 14-0.
Yeah, a little bit of ways to go if they want to get past the record, but yeah, definitely a creative start as they could have so far.
Yep. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder, they lead the West. They are 10-2 after their win over the Pelicans, 106-88 last night. And then we're going to transition into the MLS. The first round of the MLS playoffs has concluded. LA Galaxy, they beat the Colorado Rapids. Minnesota United, they beat the Real Salt Lake, which was an upset there. New York Red Bulls, they beat the defending champions, the Columbus Crew, also a major upset. Seattle Sounders, they moved on after beating the Houston Dynamo in penalties. LAFC, they hung on and they beat the Vancouver Whitecaps. Another upset in the East, the New York City FC beat FC Cincinnati. Orlando City SC, they beat Charlotte FC. And a huge upset was Atlanta United knocking off Messi and Inter Miami. A little bit of a late drama in the final game of that one. But Atlanta United, they're moving on to the next round.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff going on in the MLS right now.
Yep.
And we'll transition to Ian with Ohio Sports Roundup.
Thanks, Eli and JD. In Ohio sports news this week, the Cleveland Browns will take on the New Orleans Saints on Sunday at 1 on Fox. Meanwhile, the Cincinnati Bengals face the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock at 8:20 as they look to rebound after a tough loss to the Ravens last week. On Saturday, the Ohio State Buckeyes look to continue to gain momentum after a dominating win over Purdue last week as they play Northwestern at 12 on BTN. Tomorrow night, the Ohio State men's basketball team heads down to Texas A&M to play the 23rd ranked Aggies at 9:30. Then, on Sunday, the Ohio State women's team plays Belmont at 3. Tomorrow night at 7, the Blue Jackets host the Pittsburgh Penguins and then travel to Montreal on Saturday to take on the Canadiens, also at 7. And finally, the Cleveland Cavs remained unbeaten last night as they defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 114-106. The Cavs also play their first game in the NBA Cup against the Chicago Bulls at 7:30 tomorrow. That's it for this week's Ohio Sports Roundup. This has been Ian Miller. Now, let's send it back.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you for watching another edition of DBSN Overtime. I'm JD Lowe.
And I'm Eli Baxter, and we will see you next week for another episode.